Tate ran faster than ever before, up the sidewalks across the streets, barely noticing anything around him. People blurred past, cars honked, none of it mattered. His lungs burned, his legs ached, but he didn't stop. He couldn't stop. 3 miles, it felt like forever, it felt like seconds. By the time he reached Maya's building, his chest was heaving, his whole body buzzing with adrenaline and something dangerously close to desperation. He didn't hesitate. He rushed inside, taking the stairs 2 at a time, nearly tripping in his haste. "Come on," he panted, gripping the railing as he hauled himself upward. "Come on, come on." Each step felt louder than the last, echoing in the narrow stairwell like a countdown. He reached the door and froze for half a second. This was it, on the other side Noah. Tate's hand trembled as he lifted it, hovering just inches from the door. All the heat that had driven him here suddenly twisted into something sharper, something fragile. What if Noah didn't open it? What if he did and looked at him like a stranger? "No," Tate whispered, shaking his head hard as he could physically reject the thought. "No, he'll be there." He knocked once, twice, then harder, faster, until it was almost pounding. His voice broke through, desperate and raw. "Noah, I know you're in there. Open the door." He pressed closer, like he could will the distance between them to disappear. "I came to get you," he added, breath hitching, words tumbling over each other. Just open it, okay? We can go home, we can fix ourselves. I don't need to forgive you, so it's fine, just come on." "Just knock," he muttered to himself, "just find him." The hallway smelled faintly of detergent and old carpet. Too quiet, too normal. Tate froze, his chest tightening as the girl Maya stood in the doorway. "Yes," she asked again, her tone calm. "Is Noah here?" Tate asked, voice tight, almost trembling. Maya shook her head, eyes steady. "No, Noah doesn't live here, but since his birthday last week I've gone on 3 dates with him." Tate's mind spun. 3 dates since his birthday last week? His chest felt as though it were being squeezed, his hands trembled with disbelief. But he said he moved in with her after that. Why would he not tell him about moving out? Why would he say he cared if he didn't? He took a shaky step closer. "So, he's not living here?" "No," Maya repeated calmly. "He comes by sometimes. We've gone out, yes, but he doesn't live here, that's all I know." "Wait, Noah mentioned a few days ago at the arcade that he's house-sitting until college starts." Tate felt the room tilt, a sick, dizzying mix of jealousy and confusion. Every assumption he'd clung to, the betrayal, the broken promise, the image of Noah sharing her bed, crumbled. He hadn't just lost him, he had been lied to, and that lie burned hotter than any rage or heartbreak he had felt before. The hallway smelled faintly of detergent and old carpet. Too quiet, too normal. Tate froze, his chest tightening as the girl Maya still stood in the doorway. Tate was confused and angry. He didn't understand why Noah had moved out and couldn't find him. "So, he doesn't sleep here at night with you?" Tate asked, voice low, strangled. "No," she said again, nodding. "He just comes around sometimes, that's it." Tate stepped back, gripping the doorframe to keep from collapsing. His mind raced. Noah was leaving him behind. He swallowed hard, forcing himself to take a breath. The betrayal felt doubled, but at least now he had clarity. Noah wasn't gone for good, not to her bed. The rage inside him began to simmer, dark and unrelenting. Tate turned and walked away slowly, heart pounding, mind racing. Tomorrow was graduation and he needed a plan. He needed answers, and he needed Noah. Tate stepped back from the doorway, his mind racing faster than his heart. Hadn't Noah moved in? Wasn't 3 dates enough? Yet now Noah was staying at a strange house-sitting job each night, leaving Tate alone. Tate felt the absence each evening and wondered, why would Noah leave? The words echoed in his head, sharp and cutting. "He promised me. No one. Nothing would ever come between us." Now Tate didn't know what to believe. The lie wasn't just about a place to stay, it was about trust, about control, about the bond he had assumed was unbreakable. "He betrayed me, and then he lied about it." The rage and heartbreak collided inside him, a storm he couldn't name, couldn't control. He pressed his forehead against the wall, trying to steady his breathing, but it was useless. Every memory, every laugh, every late-night wrestling match, every moment of closeness with Noah surged in his mind, only to be replaced with the image of him out there, lying to Tate, claiming a life separate from him. He promised me," Tate whispered to himself, voice cracking. "He promised. He said no girls, no one, nothing would ever come between us, and he lied to me." His hands trembled as he gripped the doorframe, knuckles white. The rage bubbled, dark and relentless, mixing with jealousy, with the unbearable ache of heartbreak. "He's gone. He's out there living a life without me. He doesn't belong anywhere but here. He belongs in my bed, my room, my life." Tate paced the 5 blocks back to his house, every step a mixture of fury and desperation. He had to see Noah, he had to confront him. He had to understand why Noah had lied, why he had allowed someone else, even for dates, to touch what Tate had always assumed was his. Noah had chosen this house-sitting job, nights alone, miles away from anyone he knew, and yet Tate couldn't stop thinking about him lying there in the quiet while the world moved on outside. Tate could have been there, he would have been there if Noah had asked for help. Money, help, Tate's protection and his affection were available if Noah had asked. 6 figures, no questions asked, Tate's checkbook, his car, his time, everything he had was already earmarked for Noah, unspoken but absolute, and still, Noah didn't call, didn't ask, didn't even hint that he wanted company. Why? Tate's fingers drummed on the hallway as he walked down Maya's stairs. Every rational thought fought to surface. Noah didn't need the money. But if that were all, he would have come to Tate. Noah knew Tate would give him anything. Nothing would Tate refuse if Noah asked. Yet the blonde chose solitude. Noah chose to sleep alone. Tate's chest tightened with something sharper than disappointment, jealousy, panic, and longing. The thought of another man, another presence, even a shadow brushing close to Noah made him want to roar. Not for himself, not exactly, but for the right to be there, the one who belonged closest. And yet he knew better. Noah's walls weren't built for breaking, they were moats carefully maintained, and Tate had never learned how to swim in them without drowning. Still, he would try. He always tried, because love or obsession or whatever this was didn't care about walls, money, distance, or the quiet refusal to lean in. It only knew one thing, the unbearable weight of wanting someone who might never want you back. The blue house was quiet, but inside him, chaos raged. He wouldn't rest until he'd seen Noah, until he'd demanded answers. The broken promise burned hotter than ever, and Tate's obsession, his desperate, possessive need, only grew sharper. Tomorrow was graduation, a day that should have been a celebration. But for Tate, it would be a day of reckoning, a day to confront Noah about the lies, the betrayal, the absence, a day to try to reclaim what had always, in Tate's mind, been his. Tate collapsed onto his own bed, face buried deep into the pillow, muffling his cries. Tears streaked his cheeks and smeared across his jaw, soaking the fabric beneath him. He pounded his fists into the mattress again and again, the rhythm echoing the relentless churn of his mind. Why did Noah leave? Why is he gone? Why did he abandon me? The questions repeated, bouncing inside his skull like jagged shards of glass. Rage and despair tangled together, hot and suffocating. Tate imagined gripping Noah's throat, punishing him for the nightmares he now suffered alone, for the agonizing emptiness that clawed at his chest. Yet beneath the anger, there was a truth he couldn't escape. If Noah appeared at the door in his usual grunge and worn-down shoes, slouching and unaware of the chaos he left behind, Tate would immediately pull him close, drag him upstairs, and use him as a pillow for the night. No matter what Noah had done or what he might do, Tate would always take him back, because Noah was perfect, sweet, naive, innocent, and blonde with a softness that made everything else in Tate's life fade into gray. Life was simply better with Noah in it. Even the pain, the betrayal, and the helplessness, his fury couldn't erase the magnetic pull Noah had over Tate. The way the world seemed to make sense only when Noah was near. Tate's fists slowed, his breathing ragged and uneven. Yet even as exhaustion began to weigh him down, the thoughts of Noah twisted in his mind, a mixture of longing, love, and frustration so fierce it hurt to hold inside. He pressed his face deeper into the pillow he had shared with Noah while Tate clung to the comfort of imagining Noah's presence, even as the ache of absence remained unbearable. I can't lose him. I'll never lose him, Tate thought fiercely, voice muffled against the fabric. He's mine. Always mine, no matter what. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the window. Graduation day had arrived. Tate sat at the breakfast table, fists clenched around his fork, jaw tight. His mom was humming softly, pouring coffee, and Terrence was reading the newspaper like every other day, oblivious to the storm brewing inside him. Noah left me, Tate said abruptly, voice sharp, cutting through the quiet. Both his parents looked up, startled. What are you talking about, Tate? Mom asked, eyes narrowing slightly, sensing his anger. I found Maya. Noah is dadding her, but he doesn't sleep there, Tate said, trying to keep his voice steady but failing. Maya, he didn't move out to be with her. Dad raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed. Oh, about what exactly? Tate's chest tightened. About leaving, about where he's been. I tracked her down. She told me he hasn't even been living there. He just went on dates with her. Mom sighed, shaking her head slightly. Tate, he's 18. He makes his own choices. You can't control him. Tate slammed his hand on the table, rattling the plates. I don't care. He promised me, no girls, no one, nothing would ever come between us, and he lied. He lied about leaving. He lied about everything. Dad leaned back in his chair, a flicker of irritation in his expression. Tate, calm down. Graduation's today. You need to get your head straight. I can't calm down, Tate shouted, his voice cracking. Noah's gone and he lied to me and I don't know what's real anymore. I can't just sit here as if nothing happened. Mom reached across the table, putting a hand lightly on his arm, but Tate shrugged it off, standing abruptly. I can't eat, I can't, I just can't, I need to see him, I need answers. He lied, Mom, he lied. He stormed out of the kitchen, the clatter of his chair echoing in the room, leaving his parents staring after him, unsure what to do. Tate's mind was a whirlwind, anger, heartbreak, and obsessive need all colliding. Today wasn't about celebration. Today was about confronting the lie, the betrayal, and reclaiming what he believed was his Noah. 3 hours later, Tate was scanning the graduation auditorium, heart tight with a mix of anticipation and dread. He hadn't seen Noah in for a week, not since the day he celebrated his birthday, since Noah abandoned Tate. Every day had been a torment, a gnawing ache that refused to fade. While waiting for the graduation ceremony to start, Tate kept scanning the room, his gaze flicking from one empty chair to another, hopping, praying that Noah would appear. Each announcement, each shuffle of students and parents, made his chest tighten with anticipation. The principal and the coach droned on with long, polite speeches, their voices blurring into white noise. Tate barely heard a word. His eyes were only looking, searching for that flash of silky, bright blonde hair, the familiar slump of someone dressed in thrift store comfort rather than ceremony. Then, almost like fate, his gaze drifted to the side. A security gate, a guard standing stiffly in place, and there he was, Noah, standing perfectly still, holding the speech that would mark him as the valedictorian. The smartest kid in school, the one everyone expected to command the room effortlessly. Tate's breath caught, his eyes immediately went to the subtle details, the puffy rings under Noah's pale eyes, the way his shoulders slouched heavy with exhaustion or maybe something worse. He looked like he had survived a breakup or hell itself, and somehow against all odds he was still standing here. Tate's chest ached. Every fiber of him wanted to reach across the gym, to brush the tension from Noah's shoulders, to tell him he didn't have to carry the weight alone. Once the principal finished, the hush that swept over the gym signaled it was time. Noah stepped to the podium, his posture straightening just enough, his voice calm and steady, carrying across the sea of students and parents. Tate swallowed, trying and failing to keep his emotions in check. His hands curled into fists in his lap, his heart hammering so loudly he was sure everyone could hear it. And there he was, Noah, brilliant, fragile, and impossibly present. The room disappeared around him, leaving only the boy Tate whom he had wanted for longer than he cared to admit, and the unbearable, suffocating pull of needing him to notice, to need Tate back. Noah stepped up to the podium, his presence calm and assured, the weight of the moment reflected in his posture. The auditorium was silent, all eyes on him, yet Tate couldn't focus on anyone but him. His chest tightened, stomach twisting. He hadn't seen Noah in days, and now here he was, speaking to everyone, confident, composed, and untouchable. Graduation is a time to reflect, Noah began, voice clear and steady, carrying through the hall. A time to remember the people who shaped us, the challenges that pushed us, and the moments that forced us to grow. Some of us leave behind the things we thought we could never live without: friendships, comforts, and relationships. We may feel loss, betrayal, or heartbreak, but those experiences teach us what truly matters. Tate's hands clenched in his lap. Every word Noah spoke felt like it was meant to pierce him directly. He wanted to stand, to call out, to run to him, to demand the explanations that had haunted his mind for over a week. But he couldn't. He was trapped in his own chest of longing and jealousy, forced to watch Noah address everyone else while ignoring the one person desperate to hear the truth. We move forward, Noah continued, not because we forget but because we must. The past shapes us, yes, but it does not define us. And while some doors close, new ones open, paths we never imagined, people we never expected. Embrace it, learn from it. And most importantly, be true to yourself as you step into the next chapter of life. This guy here, your valedictorian, has been accepted into an Ivy League school. I'm going to Brown, and I'm studying art and business. Fuck you to all the teachers who called me gay slurs every day during school, and fuck every kid who bullied me or tormented me every moment I spent in this dump. Goodbye, Los Angels. Fuck you and fuck conformity. I'm never coming back to this awful cesspool of narrow-minded poon chasers, so fuck you all. Noah flipped off the audience with both fingers, then winked at someone in the crowd. Tate's chest tightened so sharply he thought he might collapse. It was audacious, unfiltered, raw, and completely, impossibly him. The fire in his voice, the smirk, the tilt of his jaw, it all hit Tate like a punch to the gut. But his eyes caught something else, and it ignited a hot spike of something darker: jealousy. Noah's gaze landed on a brown-haired man in his mid-twenties who was standing and clapping with that smug grin, and the smile Noah returned. It was small, almost imperceptible, but it lingered just long enough. Tate felt it in his bones, like a knife sliding between his ribs. Who was this man? Tate's fingers tightened around the edge of his chair. His stomach churned. That smile, no matter how subtle, how fleeting, was enough to make his vision blur. His mind screamed, "He's mine, that look was mine, you're smiling at him, not me. You don't get to." The laughter and applause in the gym became a distant hum. Tate's world narrowed until it was just Noah, the way he stood defiant, radiant, yet still fragile beneath the surface, puffy eyes, slouched shoulders. Every line of exhaustion and pain was undercut by that grin aimed at a man Noah respected. Tate's chest burned. Every instinct in him wanted to leap over rows of chairs, shove the strange man aside and pull Noah into his arms. To claim the attention, the smile, the light, as if he alone had the right to see through the brilliance and the raw edges to the boy underneath. He glared at Noah's guest, silently cursing, barely able to breathe as Noah's gaze flicked back to the podium. Tate's heart throbbed, a wild, painful rhythm that made it impossible to focus on anything else. He hated the distance, hated the way Noah could smile at someone else while looking untouchable to the world. And yet, beneath it all, he ached with a perverse thrill. That sharp sting of jealousy was proof of his obsession. Proof that he wanted this boy completely, entirely, even if Noah would never notice, or worse, notice the wrong person. Tate's hands curled into fists in his lap, trembling with the effort of restraint. He wanted to be furious, to storm the stage, to rip Noah from that crowd, but he was frozen. He was consumed utterly by the fire and fragility of Noah on that podium, by the reckless defiance, and by the impossible, infuriating smile he had just given Noah's male friend. And so he stayed, chest tight, eyes locked, heart hammering, consumed by jealousy and awe, knowing that in a single look Noah had undone him completely, and there was nothing he could do about it. Tate's throat went dry. The words were uplifting, inspiring to the auditorium, but to him they were torture. Noah's calm authority, the quiet confidence in his voice, the way he seemed to move through life without even a thought for Tate, it was unbearable, and yet he couldn't look away. As Noah stepped down from the podium, the applause rolling through the auditorium, Tate's chest ached with longing and obsession. He had finally seen him after almost 2 weeks. Alive, radiant, speaking to the world, moving forward, and Tate was left with a desperate, burning need to confront him, now, before Noah disappeared into the rest of his life. Tate excused himself from the crowd, heart-pounding, adrenaline surging through his veins. He had to see him, had to talk to Noah, demand answers, demand the truth about the lies, the betrayal, the absence. He sprinted down the side aisle, weaving through students and parents, eyes fixed on Noah. "Excuse me, I need to talk to him," Tate shouted, but before he could get any closer, a security guard stepped in front of him. "Sorry, sir," the guard said firmly, "no one is allowed back here." Tate's chest heaved. I need to talk to him, it's important." The guard shook his head. "I'm sorry, you can't go any further." Tate tried to push past, tried to call out, but his voice faltered before it even left his throat. Words tangled into nothingness, useless against the calm inevitability of Noah's steps. The blonde moved forward, a steady, deliberate rhythm that carried him away from Tate, each footfall a hammer blow to his chest. Tate's stomach twisted violently, nausea and despair coiling together, and he froze, rooted to the spot, as if the floor itself had swallowed him. "Noah!" Tate yelled. For a fleeting heartbeat, everything suspended. Noah turned his head. Their eyes met. Tate's heart lurched violently, a collision of longing and desperation. Noah's gaze was sharper now, more assured, framed by those pale eyes that had been puffy and tired earlier but now seemed luminous under the harsh fluorescent lights of the gymnasium. Noah was impossibly more attractive than Tate remembered, more magnetic, more alive, yet unattainable. Tate's throat constricted, his lungs burned. He wanted to scream, to leap forward, to collapse onto him, to grab him and never let go, but he did nothing. Noah's expression was unreadable, blank, composed, and in that perfect, controlled mask there was no acknowledgement of Tate's frantic, desperate need, no recognition of the years of closeness, of the nights they had shared, laughter, warmth, and secrets. Tate's hands curled, fists tightening until his knuckles whitened. He wanted to shake him, beg him, demand that he stop moving, but Noah didn't falter. He didn't hesitate. He simply continued toward the exit, untouchable, like a shadow slipping through Tate's fingers. The door slammed behind him. The sound was a cruel punctuation mark. Tate's heart shattered with it. He staggered slightly, chest tight, as though someone had twisted an iron band around his ribs. The echo of the slam reverberated in his skull, mingling with the ragged, uneven rhythm of his own breathing. He was left standing alone in the hallway, a spectator to a moment that had already passed, helpless to intervene, powerless against the magnetic inevitability of Noah's departure. Every nerve in his body screamed at him. The ache in his chest was sharp, raw, a living thing that pulsed with betrayal and longing. Noah had seen him, had looked at him, and yet he hadn't come, hadn't reached out, hadn't even hesitated for a heartbeat to acknowledge the desperate, pleading weight of Tate's gaze. He had walked past, calm, composed, emotionless, leaving Tate with the hollow echo of his absence and silence. Tears threatened to spill, but Tate forced them back, blinding himself with anger instead. The jealousy, sharp and corrosive, rose up like poison. Noah's male guest's smug grin, the secret spark in Noah's smile toward him earlier, it all coiled inside Tate, turning heartbreak into a living thing that throbbed in every tendon and muscle. He hated that man, the universe, and the audience for allowing Noah to be this close, this visible, and yet completely beyond his reach, which didn't seem to affect Noah in the slightest. He remembered the boy from Noah's birthday, the blankness in the blonde's eyes then, the way he had turned away without a word. And now even stronger, older, brighter, smarter, Noah had looked at him again and still, nothing. Tate had been seen and ignored. Not as a friend, not as a companion, not as the boy who had slept beside him for over a decade, but as a stranger, a fleeting observer, a mere presence in the periphery of someone else's life. The hallway stretched on, empty, cold, silent except for the harsh sound of Tate's ragged, uneven breaths. Every instinct screamed at him to chase, to call, to run after the boy who had once been his entire world. But he was frozen, incapable of motion, consumed by heartbreak and obsession, by the unbearable clarity of what he had lost, or perhaps, what had slipped through his fingers just this once. He could still see the curve of Noah's jaw, the tension in his shoulders, the small set of his lips that had once belonged only to him, and he knew with a certainty that cut sharper than any pain or jealousy that this moment had changed everything. Noah was moving on. He was untouchable, brilliant, and devastatingly alive, and Tate was left behind, desperate, broken, consumed by longing, by the memory of the boy who had looked at him like he was nothing more than a stranger. His fists clenched again, tighter, shaking with the effort to keep upright. Every heartbeat was a torment, every breath a reminder, every second that Noah was gone etched into him like acid. He had missed his chance. Maybe not forever, but for now the boy who had been his world had slipped through his grasp, leaving only the raw, bleeding ache of obsession and heartbreak in his wake. Tate sank against the hallway wall, sliding down to the floor, shoulders trembling. He felt the world shift beneath him, a quiet, merciless truth settling into every fiber of his being. Noah had seen him and had chosen, without a word, without hesitation, to leave. And in that moment Tate realized the cruelest, sharpest truth of all: seeing Noah even once more wasn't enough, never enough. Tate bolted through the front doors of the auditorium, heart hammering, lungs burning. He didn't care about anything else: crowds, applause, rules. He had to see him. He ran across the parking lot, scanning for the car he knew Noah would take, the car that would carry him away from Tate, from everything they'd shared, from the truth Tate needed so badly to hear. And then he saw it, the familiar shape, headlights glinting, engine idling. Noah was inside, calm, composed, looking impossibly untouchable, while a strange man was sitting beside the driver. Tate sprinted toward the car, hands reaching and chest aching. "Noah!" he shouted, voice breaking, raw with desperation. The car started to move. Tate didn't stop. He ran faster, feet pounding the pavement, adrenaline fueling his panic. There was no way Noah didn't see Tate, his figure frantic, desperate, glaring from the lot. But Noah didn't slow, didn't turn, didn't reach out. He drove on, indifferent, untouchable, while leaving Tate behind. Tate skidded to a halt as the car disappeared into the street, taillights fading into the distance. His chest heaved, heart shattering, stomach twisting. Every breath was agony. He had finally seen him, finally had the chance to confront him, and Noah had ignored him. The emptiness hit him all at once. 2 weeks of absence, betrayal, lies, and longing, all converged in the image of Noah's calm, distant face as the car disappeared. Tate stood in the parking lot, trembling, desperate, hands gripping the asphalt, consumed by heartbreak, jealousy, and the unbearable ache of being left behind. Tate sank to the curb in the empty parking lot, chest heaving, palms pressed against the concrete as if grounding himself could anchor the storm inside him. His legs shook, his vision blurred with the mix of exhaustion, rage, and heartbreak. Noah had driven away. Just like that, calm, composed, while untouchable, and he hadn't even looked back. How could he do this? Tate thought, every nerve screaming, after everything, after every promise, every night, every fight, every laugh, every damn thing we shared. He just leaves me behind like I'm nothing. He replayed the last 2 weeks in his mind, the absence, the lies, the betrayal, the fantasy of Noah moving in with someone else. He had imagined confrontation after confrontation, but now that it had finally come to the moment, he had been powerless. I should have run faster, I should have done something. Tate's fists clenched, nails digging into his palms. His teeth ground together as the jealousy flared hotter than he'd ever felt it. Noah had left, yes, but the thought that he had done it freely, choosing someone else even for just dates, was unbearable. It wasn't just leaving, it was a betrayal of everything Tate thought was theirs. He stared after the taillights dimming into the distance, and the emptiness hit him harder than the pavement beneath his knees. Every heartbeat was a reminder. Noah was alive, moving forward, untouchable, while Tate remained frozen in the same desperate need, consumed by obsession and heartbreak. Finally he forced himself to stand. The world felt hollow, heavy, unreal. But he couldn't stop thinking about Noah, couldn't stop wanting him near Tate. I'll see him again, I have to, I won't let him just disappear. Noah's place was always at Tate's side as his trusted ally and comfort. Somehow during the past weeks, Noah forgot his special place as he was needed in Tate's bed where the blonde warmed his dreams every night. Even as his legs burned from running, even as the adrenaline faded and the despair sank deeper, Tate made a silent vow. No matter what it took, no matter how long, no matter how impossible, he would confront Noah. He would get the answers he craved. He would reclaim what was in his mind always his. With a trembling, obsessive determination, Tate turned and began the long walk home, every step echoing with the ache of longing and the promise of obsession that refused to die. Tate lingered in the kitchen doorway, pretending to be busy himself with clearing the table after dinner. The clatter of dishes and silverware was a poor cover for the tight knot in his stomach. He froze when he heard the familiar voice on the phone while Talia held the landline receiver in her hands. "Hi, Noah," his mom said cheerfully, tone casual as if nothing important was happening. "Yes, he's right here, just came down for dinner, how's everything?" Tate's pulse spiked. "Noah on the phone and I'm not part of it." He crept closer, hands gripping the edge of the counter, straining to hear. His mom continued, "Yes, he's doing fine. Yes, we miss you too." Tate's chest tightened, panic and jealousy mixing into a sharp, burning pain. He had to say something. He had to hear Noah's voice, had to tell him he couldn't just vanish from his life, couldn't ignore the promises he had made. He took a step closer, heart hammering. Why is she telling him he'll call in months? Why doesn't he just call me now? The thought of Noah speaking freely to anyone else, even his mother, made Tate's stomach twist with rage and longing. "Mom," Tate's voice broke slightly, a tremor betraying his desperate need. His mom glanced at him, eyebrows raised, but kept the conversation going. I need to talk to him." Tate's mom gave a small shrug, her voice calm, almost dismissive. "He'll call when he's ready, Tate. He's busy getting ready for college, you know how he is." But Tate couldn't accept that. He stepped closer to the phone, straining to hear Noah's voice, any fragment of it, and caught a faint, calm chuckle, Noah's laugh, and the pit in Tate's chest grew unbearably deep. He pressed his hands to the counter, knuckles white, jaw tight. The sound of Noah's voice, distant and casual, was enough to send him spiraling. 2 weeks of absence, broken promises, lies, and now the casual intimacy of a phone call with his mother. It was too much. Tate's obsession, heartbreak, and jealousy collided in a storm he couldn't control. Tate's chest thumped so hard he thought it might break free of his ribs. He couldn't stand it. He needed to hear Noah's voice directly, needed him to stop disappearing from his life, needed him now. "Mom, wait," Tate's voice was sharp, desperate. "Oh, Tate?" His mom sighed, glancing at him with a mix of exasperation and sympathy, but she didn't hang up. On the other end, Noah's calm voice came through, distant, casual, oblivious to the storm Tate was in. Tate bolted forward before his own brain could catch up, snatching the landline receiver out of his mother's hands. "What, Tate? Wait," she started, but he barely registered her voice. He pressed the receiver to his ear, heart hammering so violently he was sure Noah could hear it through the line. Then he heard it. That voice, that impossible, infuriating, intoxicating voice he had imagined for 2 weeks straight in dreams that refused to take solid form. The voice that had haunted his thoughts, echoing in the silence of his room, twisting sleep into feverish longing. Hallucinations, he had thought, nothing but longing made real. And now it wasn't a hallucination, it was real. "Noah," his own voice cracked, desperate, unsteady. "Who's this?" came the answer. Those simple words, casual and unbothered, made Tate's chest seize. He could hear Noah laughing in the background, the faint giggle of someone who had survived hell and still managed to find the smallest shards of joy. His mind tried to keep pace, but it refused. Everything blurred: the hallway, the gym, the slammed doors, the pained memories. All that mattered was the sound of Noah's voice, alive and tangible, flowing through the receiver. Tate's hand tightened around the phone until his knuckles ached. He didn't care that he had ripped it from his mother, didn't care that his manners were shredded in the pursuit of this singular, impossible connection. He had to hear him, had to touch that voice, had to know that Noah existed beyond memory, beyond heartbreak, beyond jealousy, beyond the cruel distance that had left Tate shattered only hours ago. "Noah, he started and then stopped, swallowed by the sound of Noah laughing again. Pure, light, untouchable. Tate felt a shiver ripple through him, equal parts longing and panic, as if each second without a word in response would snap something vital inside him. He gritted his teeth. I needed to hear you, He didn't finish. He couldn't. The words felt too fragile, too small to carry the weight of the ache, the obsession, the desperate, fraying edges of a heart that had been broken in plain view just hours ago. And yet Noah kept talking, laughing, alive, real. The sound alone was enough to make Tate's knees go weak, his chest heaving, his mind spinning between reality and fevered dream. For a moment, everything else, the missed chances, the slammed doors, the agonizing hallway, fell away. There was only this, Noah's voice, tangible, breathing life into Tate's desperation and the dangerous, intoxicating hope that maybe, just maybe, it wasn't over. Noah, Tate breathed, voice shaking, raw with disbelief. Is it really you? The words tumbled out before he could filter them, before reason or restraint could slow him down. His heart pounded so hard it hurt, a relentless drum in his chest. Every nerve in his body was alive, buzzing with the intensity of the moment he had imagined over and over in fevered dreams, the moment that had haunted his nights for 2 weeks straight. Tate, Noah said, slightly confused. Tate's throat tightened. Why are you talking to her? Why didn't you call me? Noah, I need to talk to you right now. Tate, Noah interrupted. Don't Tate me, the angry blue boy snapped, heat and jealousy fueling him. You said no girls would ever come between us. You lied, you left, you lied about moving on, lied about everything, and now you're on the phone like I'm not even here. There was a long silence. Tate's mother shifted uneasily behind him, watching him, knowing the conversation had spiraled beyond her control. Put Taylor on the line, Noah said, trying to calm Tate. No, don't try to calm me down. You left me, Noah, you disappeared. I've been waiting, obsessed, trying to figure out why, and you're just living your life without me. Tate's voice shook, raw and urgent. I can't take it. I can't. You can talk now. You will. I need to hear your voice, Noah. I need you to tell me why. Tate yelled, desperation pouring out of every syllable. His mother gave him a warning glance, trying to defuse the situation, but Tate barely noticed, focusing on Noah instead. But for now, all he could do was cling to the phone, trembling, knuckles white, and hear Noah's measured, distant responses, the sound of the one person he couldn't reach, the one person who had already begun to slip from his grasp. Noah, wait, Tate shouted into the receiver, voice raw, trembling, every syllable thick with desperation. But it was too late. Mark says our table reservation is ready. I'll call in September, Noah said, calm, distant, almost clinical, and then click, the line went dead. Noah hung up. Tate froze for a second, the receiver still pressed to his ear, disbelief shattering into something heavier, darker. Then it hit him. The voice he had chased in dreams, imagined for weeks in restless nights, the boy he had clung to in secret and in longing, was gone, just gone. The first sob broke through quietly, then exploded into something uncontrollable. Tate's body shook with wailing, guttural and ragged, words flubbing out in meaningless strings of sounds. Noah, I can't. Why? His voice cracked, jagged, and the tears ran hot and unrelenting, streaking down his face as if they could carry the emptiness out of him. From the kitchen counter, Terrence watched, arms crossed, jaw tight, and a flicker of embarrassment crossed his face. He had seen his son upset before, but this was something else. The rawness, the desperation, the obsessive collapse over a boy on the phone, he couldn't comprehend it and he didn't want to. Tate, enough, Terrence barked, voice sharp. But Tate barely registered it, lost in a world of heartbreak that no stern tone could pierce. His closest, most intimate companion had just hung up on him, and every cell in his body was screaming against the cruelty of it. Tate's hands shook violently as he pressed the phone to his chest, sobs choking him, words dissolving into soundless wails. The grief wasn't just sadness, it was a consuming, jagged thing that clawed through him, a hunger for the boy who had always been everything he'd wanted and more. Terrence shook his head, embarrassed and disgusted, muttering under his breath as he looked away. This is pathetic, he said, though even in his judgment there was a faint tremor of worry he didn't dare acknowledge. Get it together, Tate. But Tate couldn't, he wouldn't. The world had collapsed into the echo of Noah's voice, the sting of the hang-up, and the empty space left behind. He flailed in grief, utterly consumed, entirely undone. Tate froze, hand pressed to his chest, heart hammering in disbelief. No, I love you, No goodbye, nothing, just gone. The weight of the silence hit him harder than anything else had in weeks. He sank to the floor, phone still clutched in his trembling hands, tears stinging his eyes. Every heartbeat screamed with longing, jealousy, and rage. September, that was months away, months without him, months without even a word, months without knowing if Noah even cared. The room felt suffocating, cold, and empty. Tate's mind replayed every image: the parking lot, the disappearing tail lights, Noah's calm composure on stage, and now this final, cruel dismissal. His chest ached with a mix of heartbreak and obsessive longing, a gnawing that wouldn't let him rest. He pressed his face into the pillow, silent sobs racking his body. How dare Noah leave me like this? How dare he act as if I'm nothing? As if all the closeness, all the nights, all the words we shared, meant nothing. The phone still sat in his hand, useless and mocking. Tate wanted to throw it, smash it, hurl it across the room, but even destruction wouldn't bring Noah back. Hours passed, darkness pressing in, but Tate didn't move. He couldn't sleep. He couldn't breathe. All he could do was lie there, broken, consumed by obsession, heartbreak, and the unbearable ache of knowing Noah had chosen distance, had chosen to leave him behind without a single word of love, without a single acknowledgement. And deep down, a small, desperate part of him vowed, I will see him again, I will make him answer for all he's done, I will not let him disappear from my life. The next day, Tate sat on the edge of his bed, phone trembling in his hands. He stared at the number Noah had called from last night, familiar, clean, precise. Without hesitation, he hit redial, listening to the ring that seemed impossibly slow, every second stretching like a lifetime. No answer. He tried again and again, each time failing, each time feeling the ache in his chest deepen. It wasn't enough to just hear his voice, he needed to know where he was, needed to find him. The thought of waiting until September was unbearable. He couldn't survive that long in this state of helpless obsession. His mind raced. If he couldn't reach him directly, he would reach him another way. Tate grabbed the phone book, flipping pages with a frantic precision, then dialed the customer service number for the phone company. His voice was urgent, sharp, desperate. Yes, I need the address associated with this number, he said, trying to keep his tone casual, but adrenaline made his words snap. It's urgent, it's a matter of safety. There was a pause, a long one, but Tate barely noticed. All he could focus on was the thought of Noah, calm, untouchable, unaware of the storm brewing for him. The operator gave him procedural responses, the usual disclaimers. Tate pushed harder, leaning forward, voice low, obsessive. Please, I just need to know where he is, it's really important. Finally, after what felt like hours, he got the confirmation he was looking for. The address, clear, precise. The knowledge hit him like fire, half relief, half an unbearable spike of anticipation. Tate's hands shook as he wrote it down, memorizing every detail. The world around him seemed to fade. Nothing existed outside of that single address, that single person, that single obsession. Jealousy settled in quietly, the kind that didn't announce itself at first, just tightened its grip on everything Tate looked at. The man from graduation kept replaying in his mind like a frame stuck on loop. Tall, brown hair, mid-20s, standing just off to the side when Noah spoke, clapping after the speech, not loud, not performative, just present enough to be noticed. That presence was what lingered, presence that didn't explain itself. Mark. The home wrecker's name had come through on Noah's phone once, half heard through the noise of everything else. A reservation, a table, something ordinary said in the same tone Noah used for tasks that didn't matter enough to be questioned. But Tate had questioned it anyway, because now the details were connecting themselves whether he wanted them to or not. Where did Noah meet him? That question sharpened the more Tate turned it over. University, work, someone from a life Noah moved through without narrating it to him. Every possibility felt like a door Tate hadn't been allowed to open. And that was the real sting. Not Mark himself. The unknown around him. Tate's thoughts tried to organize the uncertainty into something usable. People didn't just appear at graduation and stand close enough to matter. People didn't get mentioned on calls about reservations unless they had a reason to be part of Noah's present. So Mark must matter. And if he mattered, then he had to fit somewhere in the structure Tate understood. Friend, colleague, maybe something more. The last option landed hardest, even without evidence. Competition. It wasn't a fact, It was a conclusion built out of fear and silence, out of the gaps Noah hadn't filled in because he hadn't realized they needed filling. Tate watched the memory again, the applause, the ease of Mark standing there as he belonged in the same frame as Noah's life, and felt the edges of certainty blur. Because there was another possibility he didn't want to hold onto for long enough to examine it properly. Mark might not be competition at all. He might just be someone Noah knew, in a world that didn't automatically center around Tate. Tate's jealous mind immediately went to the worst scenario possible. Mark wasn't just a man from graduation anymore. He became competition, carefully constructed by fear more than fact. Competition for Noah's attention, for his time, for the simple ease with which Noah seemed to move through his own life without explaining every detail of it. The memory of the phone call tightened in Tate's head, the name Mark spoken casually as it belonged there, like it didn't need context. And Tate's mind did what it always did when it didn't have answers: it filled in the blanks. If Mark had access to Noah's time, then he had access to his attention. If he had access to his attention, then he had influence. And influence in Tate's imagination always turned into something more solid than it should have. Something that displaced. Not because it had been confirmed, but because Tate couldn't see what wasn't being shown. In that imagined version of events, Mark wasn't just present at graduation. He was closer than he should have been, familiar in a way that didn't require explanation, existing in the same orbit Noah moved through as if it had always been that way. And then the thought that hurt most arrived without permission. If Noah's world was expanding, then maybe Tate was no longer the only fixed point in it. Not replaced, not proven, not real. Just feared. And Tate's mind, once it found that shape, held onto it like it was already fact. What if Noah had moved out of Tate's parents' house? The thought didn't arrive gently, it came fully formed, like it had been waiting for permission. Not just moved out, but moved out for someone else. Mark. Tate's mind built it quickly after that, filling in the silence with images he had no proof for. Noah was no longer in the hallway of the house and Tate still walked through, no longer part of the familiar rhythm that had existed for 14 years without interruption. Instead, displaced into a different space entirely, one Tate couldn't see, couldn't verify, couldn't enter. And in that imagined version of events, Noah wasn't alone. Mark was there. Not clearly defined, not fully understood, just present in the way uncertainty becomes presence when the mind refuses to leave things blank. Someone close enough to feel like an explanation for the distance that hadn't actually been confirmed. Tate's jealousy tightened around the idea. Noah was always like that, easy to notice, even when he wasn't trying to be. There was something about him that drew attention without effort. Blonde, composed, quietly striking in a way people didn't always admit out loud but still reacted to. Tate had seen it before. High school hallways, passing glances, people noticing Noah even when Noah wasn't looking back. And that was what made the thought spiral worse. Because if people noticed Noah, then it wasn't hard for Tate's mind to imagine someone stepping closer, becoming part of his space, taking up time that used to feel constant and guaranteed. Mark, in Tate's imagination, became that shape again, the person who explained distance, the person who justified absence. Not proven. Not real. Just the version Tate's fear constructed when it didn't have anything else to hold onto. And in that version, the empty bed wasn't evidence of anything except the story his mind was trying too hard to write. Tate's heart pounded in his chest as he paced the length of their bedroom, his eyes darting to the empty side of the bed, the side that had always been Noah's. He had known something was off, had felt the distance growing between them, but he had never thought Noah would actually leave. Not after 14 years, not after all they had been through. His mind raced, his thoughts tumbling over each other as he tried to make sense of it all. He thought back to the last night Noah slept here, how Noah had been distant, distracted. Tate had thought it was just stress, just work, but now he wondered if it was something more, something, or someone. Mark, the name echoed in Tate's mind, a name he had heard Noah mention in passing, a name he had never thought to be jealous of. But now he was jealous of this Mark, this home wrecker who had stolen Noah. Tate was jealous of the way Noah had looked at Mark during graduation, the way he had laughed with him, the way the blonde had touched him. Tate's hands clenched into fists at his sides, his jaw tightening as he fought to control the surge of jealousy that threatened to consume him. How dare Mark think he could steal Noah from him? How dare he think he could take what was his? Noah was his. He had seen him first. He had known him for years, and Mark could just swoop in and try to lure Noah away. No way in hell. His mind flashed back to the countless nights Tate had spent with Noah, the countless times he had held him, had loved him, had made him his. He thought of the way Noah had looked at him, had touched him, had loved him, and he knew that Noah was his. He knew that Noah belonged to him. But now he wasn't so sure. Now he wasn't sure if Noah still felt the same way. Now he wasn't sure if Noah still wanted him. And that thought, that doubt, was enough to drive him to the edge, to make him want to do something, anything, to get Noah back. Tate paced the length of their bedroom, his heart pounding in his chest, his mind racing with thoughts of Noah, of Mark, of the empty bed that now stretched out before him, cold and uninviting. He had never felt this way before, never been this jealous, this possessive, unless Noah was involved. But the thought of Mark, of that brown-haired, blue-eyed interloper stealing Noah away from him, was enough to drive him to the edge, to make him want to do something, anything, to protect what was his. He could see it now, clear as day, in his mind's eye. Mark, that smug smile on his face, that cocky tilt to his head, walking up the path to their house, his eyes locked on Tate's, a challenge in their depths. "Tate," he would say, his voice casual as if they were old friends. "I've come to pick up Noah, he's moving in with me." And Tate, he could see himself now, his hands clenched into fists at his sides, his jaw tightening as he fought to control his anger, his jealousy. "No," he would growl, his voice low, dangerous. "He's not moving in with you, he's staying here with me." Mark's smirk would widen, his eyes sparkling with amusement. "I'm afraid that's not up to you, Tate. Noah has made his decision, and he's chosen me." Mark's laughter would echo through the air, a sound that grated against Tate's raw nerves. "Steal him away? Tate, darling, men like Noah are easy to lure away. It's not your fault, it's just the way they are." Tate's anger would boil over, his body lunging forward, his hands reaching out, grabbing Mark by the throat, pinning him against the wall. "You stay away from Noah," he would growl, his voice low, menacing. "You stay away from what is mine, because if you don't, I swear to God, I will make you regret it." Mark's eyes would widen in surprise, his hands coming up to grip Tate's wrists, trying to pry them away. "Tate, what are you doing? Let me go." Tate's grip would tighten, his face inches from Mark's, his eyes burning with jealousy, with possessiveness. "I said stay away from Noah, he is mine, and I will not let you take him from me." Mark's face would pale, his body struggling against Tate's hold. "Tate, please, you're hurting me." Tate's grip would tighten one last time before he released Mark, pushing him away, his body shaking with the force of his emotions. Mark would stumble back, his hands coming up to rub his throat, his eyes wide with fear, with shock. "You're crazy, Tate," he would say, his voice shaking. "You're fucking crazy." Tate's laughter would echo through the air, a bitter, hollow sound. "Crazy? Maybe I am, but I'm crazy for Noah, and I won't let you take him from me, I won't let you steal him away." And with that, Tate would turn and walk back into the house, leaving Mark standing alone on the porch, his body shaking, his eyes filled with fear, with shock. Tate would close the door behind him, his heart pounding, his body shaking, his mind racing with thoughts of Noah, of Mark, of what was to come. Tate's heart pounded in his chest as he imagined walking in on the one thing he feared most. The sight that greeted him was enough to send him into a fit of jealous, insane rage. There on Mark's bed lay Noah, naked and vulnerable, sharing the same pillow, the same blanket, the same mattress with none other than Mark. Tate's hands clenched into fists at his sides, his body shaking with the force of his anger, his jealousy. He lunged forward, his hands wrapping around Mark's throat, pinning the nude man down on the bed. Mark struggled, his hands grasping at Tate's wrists, trying to pry them away, but Tate was too consumed by his rage, too blinded by his jealousy to care. He pressed down, his fingers digging into Mark's flesh, his thumbs pressing into his windpipe, cutting off his air supply. Mark's face paled, his eyes wide with fear as he struggled to breathe, to fight back. But Tate was too far gone, too lost in his jealousy to stop. He could feel Mark's body going limp beneath him, could see the life draining from his eyes, but he didn't care. He wanted to squeeze the life out of him, to make him pay for taking what was his. Suddenly, a soft moan pierced the fog of Tate's rage, a sound that made his heart stop, his body freeze. He turned his head, his eyes meeting Noah's sleepy gaze, his heart swelling with a mix of love and fear. Noah was awake, was watching him, was seeing him like this. Tate's hands released Mark's throat, his body shaking as he realized what he had done, what he had almost done. He looked down at Mark's lifeless body, at the red marks on his throat, at the fear in his eyes, and he felt sick. He felt sick to his stomach, sick with himself, sick with what he had almost done. He reached down, his hands gentle as he scooped Noah up off the bed, pulling him into his arms, wrapping him in the blanket, shielding him from the sight of Mark's body. He carried him out of the room, out of the house, away from the scene of his jealousy, his rage. As they stepped out into the cool night air, Tate's body shook, his mind racing with thoughts of what had just happened, of what he had almost done. He looked down at Noah, at the way he was looking at him, at the fear in his eyes, and he felt a pang of guilt, of shame. He had scared Noah, had terrified him, had shown him a side of himself that he never wanted him to see. But it was too late for that now, too late for regrets, for apologies. All that mattered now was getting Noah away from this place, away from Mark, away from the scene of Tate's jealous rage. And so, he held Noah close, his body shaking, his heart aching as he carried him away into the night. In the present, Tate rose from his bed after a disturbing dream, heart hammering, mind spinning with desperation and jealousy. Every step forward felt electric, like a fuse had been lit. Today he might wait or he might act, but he knew one thing for certain: he would not let Noah slip away again. Tate ran the 4 miles like his legs were on fire, lungs burning, every heartbeat hammering with a mix of desperation, rage, and longing. When he reached the quadplex on Wilshire, sweat dripping, chest heaving, he didn't even pause to catch his breath. He scanned the building, Unit 3, second floor. That was where Noah had been, untouchable, calm, and just out of reach for far too long. Once Tate arrived on the second level, the one he knew Noah was house-sitting, the world seemed to narrow to a single, sharp point: Noah. His pulse surged violently, hammering in his chest like a racehorse tearing toward the finish line. Every nerve in his body was alive, taut with anticipation, every beat a reminder that he was on the edge of something he had longed for, feared, and obsessed over for weeks. Ever since he had met Noah, Tate's body had reacted like this, heart racing, stomach twisting, breath catching every time the boy was near. It wasn't just excitement, it was raw physical, a visceral reaction to the presence of someone who had wormed his way under his skin and into every thought, every daydream, every fevered, restless night. And now, standing just outside the door, knowing Noah was on the other side, the sensations multiplied tenfold. Tate's hands trembled as he gripped the railing, knuckles white, stomach fluttering with a mix of nerves and desperate anticipation. Every fiber of him ached, not just to see Noah but to reach out, to feel him, to brush a hand along the curve of a shoulder, the familiar warmth of skin he had once been close to, the solid weight of a body that had been his constant in secret for so long. The thought alone made his pulse stutter, quicken, make him dizzy with need. Anxiety gnawed at him, a low, burning edge beneath the thrill. What if Noah had changed? What if he rejected him? What if this proximity, the one thing Tate had craved for so long, turned into a rejection so sharp it would shatter him completely? And yet, that fear was inseparable from the craving, the uncontainable excitement that coursed through him. To see Noah again, to be near him, to finally touch him, even the smallest, most tentative brush, was a thought that made his chest ache, made his hands sweat, made his pulse pound until it felt like it could burst through his ribcage. Tate closed his eyes for a brief second, letting his imagination run wild. Noah's shoulder under his fingertips, the curve of his neck pressed against his palm, the warmth of his skin brushing his own. His breath hitched at the mere idea. He wanted it, he needed it. And the closer he moved toward the door, the more unbearable the tension became, each heartbeat dragging him forward, each step a mix of terror and exhilaration. This was the moment he had been building toward, weeks of longing, obsession, and heartbreak culminating in a single threshold. Tate exhaled shakily, bracing himself, every muscle coiled with anxious energy, every nerve screaming at him to step inside, to see Noah, to reach out, to finally bridge the gap that had left him sleepless, desperate, and consumed. He climbed the stairs 2 at a time, hand already clenched in anticipation, mind spinning. He reached the door, heart thudding so hard he thought it would burst. He pressed his eye to the peephole just long enough to see movement inside. Noah. There he was, alive, human, and painfully, infuriatingly unaware of what was coming. Tate pressed his hand over the peephole, heart hammering so violently he was sure Noah could hear it through the walls. He couldn't let him see first, not now, not like this. His pulse raced, every nerve screaming, every fiber of his being focused on the one thought that had consumed him for weeks: Noah right in front of him. The knock wasn't polite, it wasn't careful. It was sharp, urgent, demanding, an almost physical declaration of need. Tate didn't wait for an invitation. The door cracked open just a fraction and Tate shoved it without hesitation. With one hard push, he forced the door fully backward, driving it against the inner wall, and pushed Noah along with it. The impact pinned Noah against the wall. Tate felt the warmth of him, the solidity of his body under his own. His chest heaved, every muscle coiled with a mixture of desperation, obsession, and long-suppressed desire. Words caught in his throat, meaningless in the torrent of emotion surging through him. Noah froze. For a heartbeat, Tate saw it all: shock, confusion, and the tiniest flicker of fear. It was so brief, so fleeting, but it seared itself into Tate's mind. His eyes burned with intensity, catching every detail: the slight widening of Noah's pale eyes, the tension in his shoulders, the way his lips parted in surprise. Tate's own body trembled, not from fear but from the raw, unrelenting force of wanting, needing, desiring him now. Every instinct screamed to touch, to bridge the weeks of longing and heartbreak, to make Noah feel what Tate had been living with every day, every heartbeat, every sleepless night, every desperate, obsessive thought that had revolved around him. The apartment seemed to shrink around them. Every sound, the creak of the floor, the slight rustle of clothing, the rush of air between them, was amplified. Tate's pulse thundered in his ears, matching the wild rhythm of his thoughts. He was consumed utterly by the boy pressed against the wall, by the fragile, impossible weight of this moment, and by the fire of obsession that had carried him across the threshold. And still, for that heartbeat, all Tate could do was look, feel, and burn with the need that had defined him since the very first time he'd laid eyes on Noah. Noah's gaze was twisted, panic igniting in his pale eyes. Then he surged forward, his steps darting toward the bathroom as if a locked door could keep him safe. But Tate was faster, relentless. His hands closed around Noah's ankles with iron certainty, yanking the boy backward. Noah's scream cut sharply through the apartment as he slammed to the floor, landing hard on his stomach, carpet rough against his cheek. "Get off me, Tate! What the hell are you doing?" Noah's voice cracked, urgent and high, a mixture of fear, anger, and disbelief. He wriggled, kicking, twisting, but Tate's grip tightened, each limb pressing him down like gravity incarnate. Tate leaned forward, chest heaving, every fiber of him taut with desire and obsession. The smell of Noah, his soap, his skin, the faint scent of the blonde hair he had always memorized flooded Tate's senses. "I've waited too long. I've wanted you for too long. I can't let you run." He pressed a knee to Noah's lower back and pinned Noah's arms to the carpet. "This is the only way I can keep you close, the only way I can breathe when my entire body is screaming for you." Noah's limbs flailed, but Tate anchored them, feeling every twitch, every futile push, every pulse beneath his hands. "Tate, stop! I'm serious!" Noah spat, voice trembling with equal parts fear and fury. "Why won't he leave me alone?" His mind raced. "I've tried to escape before. I shouldn't have let him near me like this. I shouldn't feel my body respond." They were half-tangled on the apartment floor, more roughhousing than anything serious, the kind of wrestling that came from familiarity rather than conflict. A pillow had already been sacrificed somewhere off to the side, and Noah had managed to get an elbow under Tate's shoulder as he might actually win this round. Then the landline beeped. The sound cut through the room in a way neither of them immediately reacted to, like background noise that didn't matter until it did. "Voicemail received," the machine announced flatly. A second later, Mark's voice filled the space. "Hey Noah, it's Mark. I just wanted to let you know that I need to switch our dinner date to 8 o'clock instead of 6. I have a business telecall that I have to take care of. Sorry if it throws off your evening plans. If tonight's not a good night, give me a call back and we'll reschedule, but I'm available at 8 if you are. Congrats on your graduation. I'm glad I could attend." The message ended with a soft click. For a moment, nothing moved. Noah was still pinned at an angle on the floor, chest rising slightly faster from the wrestling, but his attention had already shifted. Eyes no longer on Tate, but angled toward the sound of the voicemail like it had changed the shape of the room. Tate didn't speak right away. It wasn't obvious on his face at first, just a subtle stillness as his body had gone from motion to calculation. The earlier energy of the wrestling didn't disappear, it just redirected, tightening instead of loosening. "Dinner date," he repeated quietly, not quite a question. The words hung there simple and clean, but they didn't land that way, not for him. Noah pushed slightly against his grip, not aggressively anymore, just enough to create space to sit up a little. "It's not," he started, then stopped, as if deciding how much explanation was even necessary. "It's just dinner." But Tate's focus wasn't on the word just, it was on everything around it. The timing, the tone, the casual ease of someone adjusting plans with Noah as if that space was already accounted for. The apartment suddenly felt smaller, like the air had shifted. Tate's voice stayed controlled, but it had lost the looseness it had before. "You didn't mention Mark." It wasn't an accusation yet, but it was close enough to feel like one. Tate's teeth clenched and a flicker of anger shot through him. His jealousy, long coiled and simmering, flared like wildfire. Why are you always running? Every time you get close to someone else I see it. I can't watch you drift away. His voice cracked, hoarse, desperate. He pressed his forehead gently against the side of Noah's temple, brushing the skin with a soft, possessive kiss. I need you, you're mine, Noah, you've always been mine. Noah froze for a heartbeat, the words slicing through him like a blade. His chest heaved, a mixture of panic and something he couldn't name, desire, confusion, shock. Mine, what does that even mean? His pulse raced in response to Tate's weight pressing down, to the warmth, the heat, the undeniable closeness. His body betrayed him, trembling against Tate's grasp despite his mind screaming to resist. I can't, Noah gasped, voice stuttering. This isn't right, Tate, you're acting crazy, insane, let me up. His hands scrabbled at Tate's arms, attempting to push him off, but the effort only made Tate's resolve harden. I don't care about right or wrong, Tate snapped, frustration and longing twisting together like fire in his chest. I've dreamed of you, thought of you, craved you for 2 weeks, and I won't let you go. His eyes burned into Noah's, every emotion raw and unfiltered, obsession, anger, desire, heartbreak, jealousy. Do you think I'd let anyone else touch you? Do you think I could survive watching you smile at someone else? Noah's mind raced. I shouldn't. Yet beneath the fear and resistance, heat pooled low in his stomach, betraying the sharp, forbidden pull of Tate's presence. He's suffocating me, but why does my body respond like this? His fingers dug into the carpet as his chest heaved, a flutter of want and frustration tangling with the panic. Tate lay his forehead against Noah's chest, still trembling as the last of his panic spilled out in quiet, uneven breaths. He didn't speak right away, just held on like letting go might make the world shift again. Noah's shirt was already damp where Tate's face rested, the fabric clinging slightly with every small shake of his breathing. Tate's grip tightened for a second, then loosened, then tightened again, like his body couldn't decide what safe felt like. I thought you abandoned me, Tate finally managed, voice broken at the edges, muffled against him. A sniffle followed immediately after, sharp and small in the silence. Noah didn't move away. He just adjusted his stance slightly so he was steadier, one hand resting between Tate's shoulder blades, the other holding him in place without pressure. I didn't, Noah said quietly, no argument, no defensiveness, just certainty. I was house-sitting. I told your mom I was moving out last Friday. Tate gave a small shake of his head again, not rejecting the words so much as struggling to let them settle into him. His voice came out softer this time. You weren't there. Another sniffle, longer now, like his body was trying to catch up with the fact that the danger wasn't real anymore. Noah's hand moved slowly, grounding him. I've moved on, Tate. That was all he said. Tate stayed pressed there for a moment longer, breathing unevenly, as if testing whether the present would hold. Tate leaned forward more, pressing his forehead against Noah's temple again, lips brushing soft, possessive, desperate against the skin. The motion was tender yet commanding, a declaration, a claim. This is mine, you're mine, I can't lose you. He let the weight of his obsession and desire press through, letting the intensity of his emotion communicate what words could not. Noah stilled, heart racing, chest tightening, mind spinning between fear, confusion, and undeniable attraction. Tate, he whispered, voice trembling. I don't know what to do. Every muscle in his body screamed resistance even as his pulse betrayed him, responding to the closeness, to the heat, to the familiar weight of Tate above him. Tate's hands flexed slightly, feeling the tension, the defiance, the trembling beneath his touch. Don't fight me, he murmured, voice rough, low, filled with obsession and need. I can't lose you, not now, not ever. You're here, I'm here, and I'm not letting you slip away again. Noah's breath came in short, shallow bursts, every beat of his heart pounding in time with Tate's obsession-driven rhythm. His mind screamed in conflict, this was wrong, this was reckless, but his body was loud and honest, trembling under Tate's limbs, reacting in ways that terrified and enthralled him. Tate pressed another soft, desperate kiss to the temple, leaning just enough to feel the warmth to communicate possession without hurting him. The words fell into the charged silence of the apartment. I've waited, I've suffered, I've watched you drift and smile and vanish, and I won't do it anymore. You're mine, Noah, I need you like this, now. Noah froze again, chest heaving, mind a storm of panic, excitement, fear, and longing. His pulse screamed in his ears, betraying his mind as it raced to match Tate's rhythm. He wanted to push away. He wanted to run. And yet in the same moment every nerve and cell was alive with the impossible, intoxicating pull of Tate, of the obsession, of the boy who had consumed his every thought. And Tate, feeling the subtle tension, the subtle faltering in Noah's struggle, pressed ever so slightly closer, lips brushing once more, whispering hoarsely, "I'm not leaving. Not now, not ever. You're here, I'm here, and you're not getting away again." Noah's mind whirled. I can't, but I want this. God, I want this. Noah, Tate gasped, barely able to breathe. You can't just disappear, you can't just leave like that. Do you even understand what you did? Noah's hands went up instinctively, trying to keep distance, voice calm but edged with concern. Tate, what are you doing here? You can't just... Tate's desperation overrode everything else. No, I have to. You lied, you left, you said no girls would come between us and you... His voice broke, trembling with rage and heartbreak. You lied. Tate, you can't just barge in like this. I don't care, Tate snapped, voice raw. I can't wait, I need answers. I need to know why you left, why you didn't tell me the truth. The room felt impossibly small, charged with tension, desperation, obsession, and heartbreak. Tate's hands shook, fists clenched, eyes locked on Noah's face. Every inch of him screamed with need, with longing, with the unbearable weight of 2 weeks of absence and lies. And Noah, for the first time in so long, was right there, close enough to touch. Alive, human, and Tate's obsession boiled over, a storm of jealousy, love, and despair that refused to be contained. Tate's eyes swept across the living room, landing on the couch Noah had been sleeping on. It looked like a makeshift bed, he thought, his chest tightening. You must be staying on somebody's couch, he said, voice trembling with a mix of disbelief and fury. Maybe house-sitting or something. You're getting ready for bed, Noe. I want to go to bed, Noah said, voice breaking. So go to bed, Tate replied. Tate shook his head, stepping closer, voice rising with desperation. I'm not leaving. I haven't slept in 12 days, because I can't rest, can't sleep without you there. I need you, Noah. I just can't. Noah's eyes softened, a flicker of pity and concern in the calm gaze that had tormented Tate for weeks. Tate, you can't force this. You can't expect me to just be here for you like that. I don't care, Tate shouted, the words raw and ragged. I can't think about anything else. Every night I've lain in our bed alone, haunted by your absence, replaying every moment, every word, every promise you broke. I can't survive it. Noah swallowed, eyes flicking toward the couch that doubled as a bed. Tate, you need rest, you're exhausted, you're letting obsession ruin you. Obsession? Tate's laugh was bitter, hollow, laced with heartbreak. You think this is an obsession? This is life, this is survival. I can't live without you, Noah, not for 12 days, not for 12 years, not ever. Noah's jaw tightened. Tate, I can't give you what you want. I won't. You have to understand that. You can't make me stay no matter how desperate you are. Tate's knees threatened to buckle, his hands gripping the edge of the counter for support. Tears streamed down his face, his body trembling. I don't care what you can't do. I need you here. I need to know you're mine, even for a moment, even if it kills me. The apartment was silent except for Tate's ragged breathing, the tension almost tangible in the small room. Noah stood, unwavering, calm but distant, a living reminder of everything Tate had lost and everything he couldn't have. And yet, despite the heartbreak, the desperation, the rage, Tate refused to leave. He would stay, he would beg, he would fight, because losing Noah even just for this night was unthinkable. Tate's arms locked around Noah with a force that felt less like comfort and more like restraint. Noah barely had time to react before he was pulled tight against Tate's chest, the air knocked slightly from his lungs. Don't, Noah muttered, trying to twist free, but Tate only tightened his grip. You're mine, Tate bellowed, the words cracking with something raw, anger, fear, something deeper he didn't know how to name. Noah stiffened. I'm not. But Tate didn't let him finish. His hand gripped the back of Noah's shirt, fisting the fabric as he dragged him across the room. Noah stumbled, his heel catching on the rug, but Tate didn't slow down. The world felt off balance, like everything was tilting toward Tate's will and there was no stopping it. Tate, don't, Noah said, sharper now, trying to plant his feet. Still, Tate pulled him down onto the couch. The cushions dipped under their weight as Tate forced him to sit, then to lie back. Tate followed immediately, crowding into his space, one arm still wrapped tightly around him like a vice. Tate's breathing slowed quickly behind me, heavy and satisfied, as the outcome had already settled in his mind. "Good night, Noe," he murmured, voice thick with sleep. "I'll take you to breakfast in the morning, then we'll head back home." Home. His arm tightened around my ribs, instinctive, possessive. Even asleep, he was holding me like I already belonged there again, like I'd already said yes. Tate was flushed in that soft, fatting way that comes after tears, skin warm at the cheeks, color slowly returning like his body was remembering how to be calm again. There was still a faint dampness at his lashes, but it no longer looked like distress, more like release. He looked almost content. Like something heavy had finally been set down, even if only temporarily. Without much thought left in him, Tate settled back into what his body remembered best. His heavy head found its place on Noah's chest with familiar certainty, as if there had never been a break in routine, as if the last 2 weeks had never existed in the way his mind insisted they had. His breathing softened almost immediately. Noah stayed steady beneath him, adjusting just enough to make the position comfortable on the leather fold-out couch, expensive-looking, a little too firm, but now completely occupied by the weight of someone who had decided not to let go. Tate clung in sleep the way he had in waking moments, arms wrapped around Noah, legs tangled in without awareness, his whole body folding in close like instinct. The earlier panic had drained out of his face, replaced by something quieter, almost peaceful as his features relaxed fully. A small, unconscious sound slipped from him, something warm and content as he drifted deeper. Even asleep, his grip didn't fully loosen. It stayed firm, protective, habitual, like his body was still checking even without permission that Noah was still there, that he hadn't disappeared again. Noah didn't move much, just remained where he was, letting the stillness settle around them. Tate's breathing deepened, steadying into sleep as his hold softened only slightly, then held again, like his subconscious couldn't quite believe in permanence yet but was willing to accept the moment it had. I stared at the ceiling, pulse quickening. He really thinks I'm going back, that I'd just fold, that I'd wake up, eat pancakes and fall into place beside him like nothing ever broke. My jaw tightened. Tate's strong, I thought, but he's not fast enough. Carefully slow at first, I let my body go slack against him, matching his rhythm, syncing my breathing to his. In, out, steady, like I was already asleep. Tate shifted slightly, tightening once in response, then easing again as his body trusted what it felt. That was the thing about him. He relied on instinct. I relied on timing. Another minute passed, maybe 2. His grip didn't disappear, but it dulled just enough. Enough for me. My eyes flicked toward the door. Distance short. Obstacle him. Margin for error, none. Now. I moved in a sudden, sharp twist, fast, precise. My shoulder dipped while my hips turned the opposite way, slipping through the narrow gap his loosened arm gave me. His hand caught fabric, fingers brushing my shirt, but I was already gone. Noah. Too late. I was on my feet in a blink, momentum carrying me forward as Tate jolted upright behind me, sleep ripped clean off him. Don't, he started, voice snapping awake. I didn't stop. Bare feet hit carpet, then hardwood, the cold shock barely registering as I bolted for the door. My hand hit the knob, a thud behind me, fast, but I was faster. The door yanked open just as Tate's shadow stretched across the wall, closing in. I slipped through the gap and didn't look back, because if I did, I might hesitate, and hesitation was the only way he'd catch me. The door barely had time to swing shut behind Noah before the cold air hit him, sharp, immediate, sobering. He made it 2 steps into the outside hallway. 2. Then an arm locked around his waist from behind and yanked him clean off his feet. Tate. Not happening, Tate said, breath rough against his ear. Noah reacted instantly. There was no hesitation this time. He twisted hard, driving his elbow back, kicking out, trying to wrench himself free before Tate could get a better hold. Let me go. But Tate didn't fight the way Noah did. He didn't chase the movement, he absorbed it, shifted with it, tightened where it mattered. Noah's weight meant nothing, his speed barely slowed him. Tate turned, already dragging him back toward the door. No, Tate, stop! Noah's hands caught the doorframe as they crossed the threshold, fingers gripping hard, trying to anchor himself. For a second it worked, his body stretched between escape and capture. Then Tate pulled harder. The grip broke. The door slammed open, then back against the wall as Noah was hauled inside again, his breath knocked uneven from the sudden force of it. He twisted sharply, almost slipping out of Tate's hold, almost. Tate adjusted instantly, his arms sliding higher, locking across Noah's chest, pinning his arms tighter. "God, you don't quit," Tate muttered. "I said let me go." Tate didn't answer, he just moved. Fast. He turned and drove them both toward the couch, momentum carrying them down. Noah hit the cushions first, but there was no space to recover. Tate came down with him, solid and immediate, one knee trapping Noah's leg as his arm hooked over Noah's, cutting off leverage before it could even start. Noah bucked hard beneath him, twisting, fighting for space, for air, for anything that wasn't Tate's weight pressing him down. "Tate." "Enough," Tate snapped. Noah didn't stop, couldn't. Every part of him resisted, shoulders straining, legs pushing. Breath sharp and uneven as he fought against the hold. But Tate stayed with him through all of it, adjusting, countering, containing every movement like he already knew what Noah would try before he did it. "Tate, I swear." "I know," Tate cut in, breath heavy. "You'll run, you'll keep running. Because you won't let me go." That landed. Tate stilled for a fraction of a second, not releasing him, not loosening, but no longer forcing him further down. Just holding him there, both of them breathing hard, the struggle suspended between them. "You think this is about control," Tate said, quieter now, his voice still edged but steadier. "It is," Noah shot back, still straining against him. Tate's grip shifted then, not weaker but different. Less about pinning every limb, more about keeping Noah close, contained, without crushing him. "It's about you not disappearing on me again." "I'm not disappearing," Noah snapped. "I'm leaving." "Same thing." "It's not." The sharpness in Noah's voice cracked at the edges and Tate caught it. Noah felt it in the way his hold changed again, subtly, but there, not softer, just aware. Tate shifted his weight, turning onto his side and pulling Noah with him, keeping that arm locked around his ribs as he dragged him tight against his chest. The movement wasn't sudden this time, it was deliberate, controlled, leaving Noah pinned without the impact of before. "Stop fighting," Tate muttered, voice lower now, closer to his ear. Noah didn't. Noah twisted again, trying to pry space between them, but Tate's grip held firm, unrelenting without being frantic. Every movement Noah made was met, redirected, and contained. "You're not going anywhere tonight," Tate added. "I decide that," Noah shot back, breath uneven. "Not like this," Tate said. Noah pushed harder, one last sharp attempt to break free, but it burned out faster this time. His strength didn't match Tate's, his speed didn't matter when there was no space to use it. The fight started to slip, not gone, but fatting. Tate felt it. His arm tightened once, not harsher, just firmer, pulling Noah fully back against him, locking him into place against the couch. "Just sleep," Tate said quietly. "No." But the word came out weaker than Noah wanted. Tate didn't argue this time. He just settled in behind him, steady, unyielding, his breathing beginning to slow again as he had already decided how the night would end. Noah lay there, tense at first, every muscle still braced for another attempt, another push. But there was nowhere to go, no angle left, no opening, only Tate's arm around him, solid, constant, inescapable. Gradually, unwillingly, the fight drained out of him. His breathing slowed, matching the rhythm behind him despite himself. Tate didn't loosen his hold, not once. Even as Noah's body finally gave in to exhaustion, even as his eyes burned and then closed, Tate kept him there, anchored against him on the couch, like letting go wasn't an option he was willing to consider. And this time, Noah didn't make it back to the door. Sometime around 3 in the morning, when the house had settled into that deep, unmoving quiet, Noah's eyes opened again. Tate's arm was still draped over him, heavy even in sleep, but no longer unbreakable. Carefully, inch by inch, Noah shifted. He controlled every breath, every small movement, easing himself out from under the weight without waking him. It took time, long, stretched seconds, but eventually the pressure lifted. Noah slid free. He didn't hesitate. Moving silently, he reached for his knapsack, then his coat, then grabbed 2 blankets off the back of the couch, clutching everything close to keep it from rustling. He paused once, glancing back. Tate hadn't moved. Good. Noah turned and slipped out the door, easing it shut behind him without a sound. The hallway stretched ahead, dim and still, and this time he didn't run. He moved lightly, quickly, each step placed with intention as he made his way down the hall, through the quiet building and out into the cold night air. The walk to his car was short, but it felt like distance reclaimed, like something is finally his again. Noah didn't start the engine right away. Instead, he eased the car into neutral and stepped out, glancing once toward the house before placing his hands against the cold metal frame. Slowly, carefully, he pushed it down the road, putting distance between himself and the sound of an ignition that might carry in the quiet night. Only when he was far enough to breathe without feeling watched, did he slide back into the driver's seat and turn the key. The engine came to life low and steady, and this time he drove. He didn't pick a new place, he picked an old one. The blue warehouse on South Vermont Street came into view like a memory he hadn't quite shaken, dark, quiet, unchanged. The same place he'd ended up on his 18th birthday when there hadn't been anywhere else to go. Noah parked in the shadow of it, cutting the engine and letting the silence settle in around him again. It was colder than he expected, the kind of cold that crept in slowly and stayed. He pulled the blankets around himself, layering them tight as he leaned the seat back, then turned the heater on in short bursts, careful, controlled. The car wasn't comfortable, the seats were stiff, the space too small, but it didn't matter. Not tonight, not compared to the alternative. No Pepe Le Pew's arms locked around him, no weight pinning him in place or breath at his back deciding when he stayed and when he went. Noah exhaled slowly, staring out through the windshield. Worth it, he muttered under his breath. Even if his neck would hate him in the morning. Even if sleep came in fragments. Even if everything still felt unsettled. It was his. By the time the sky began to lighten, Noah was already awake. He stretched stiffly, wincing as the tightness in his back set in, then rubbed a hand over his face and pushed himself upright. 8 came quickly, too quickly. He started the car again and drove across town, the familiarity of the route settling something quiet in him. When the blue mansion came into view, large and composed like nothing inside it ever fractured, Noah felt that same mix of detachment and obligation settle in his chest. Breakfast. Then Noah would disappear again. He parked, grabbed his things, and stepped out, already bracing for whatever version of the morning was waiting for him inside. Tate woke at 8:05 am, eyes snapping open to the empty couch. His arm instinctively tightened, expecting warmth. Resistance him, there was nothing. The couch was cold, not just empty, icy, stiff, and untouched. The blankets were cold as well, no trace of lingering heat, no sign Noah had been there recently at all. "No," Tate muttered, voice low and rough. Silence answered him. He pushed himself up fast, scanning the room, expecting some trick, some hiding spot, anything, but the space was empty. The realization hit like a punch. Noah was gone. Again. His jaw clenched hard, anger flaring hot in his chest, sharp and consuming. Frustration followed just as fast because he knew Noah had waited, timed it perfectly until Tate was asleep, trusting and entirely vulnerable. And then, like a ghost, he had slipped away. "Unbelievable," Tate muttered under his breath. His fist came down hard on the couch cushion, once, then again. The dull thud barely matched the force behind it. "He waited," he whispered, packing now, running a hand through his hair. "He actually waited until I trusted him." Tate exhaled sharply, his eyes narrowing as he processed it all. 3, maybe 4 hours, head start, not enough, not for him. He grabbed his keys, already running through possibilities. Noah didn't have many places he'd go, not when he was trying to disappear, but still stay within reach of something familiar. Tate knew how he thought, knew his patterns. "You don't vanish," Tate said under his breath as he reached for the door. "You relocate." He hated that Noah would leave their bed before morning, like the night itself was being cut short on purpose. It felt unreasonable to Tate, too much to ask in his mind, for Noah to simply wait until he woke up naturally, to stay within reach just a little longer. Because when Tate woke and found the space beside him empty, it didn't feel neutral, it felt personal. Tate was cold, chilled to the bone in a way that sleep never seemed to fix. The kind of cold that settled deep and lingered, no matter how many blankets he pulled up or how tightly he curled in on himself. Noah's body heat had become something he depended on more than he liked to admit, an unspoken comfort that made the world feel less sharp at the edges. So Noah leaving in the middle of the night wasn't just a small routine change. To Tate, it landed like a quiet frustration that built and built, like a slight he couldn't quite articulate. It felt like an intentional dig, even if he knew, logically, it wasn't. Like Noah's absence was saying something Tate didn't want to hear, that he was forgettable in sleep, easy to slip away from, or worse, that Noah just couldn't stand to stay. That thought always twisted something uneasy in his chest. Tate would lie there afterward, still half drowned in sleep, staring at the empty space Noah had left behind. The sheets would already be cooling, the imprint of warmth fading too quickly as if it had never really been there at all. And in that silence his mind would start to fill in the gaps, small, unfair conclusions he couldn't quite stop himself from forming. Eventually, he would pull the blankets tighter around himself as if he could recreate what was gone by force of will alone. But it never worked the same. It was never enough. And what lingered most wasn't just the cold, it was the absence of Noah beside him and everything Tate didn't know how to ask for out loud. Noah's absence beneath the blankets they had shared angered Tate to the point of fury. The prince needed to be kept warm, yet the sweet blonde boy Tate had chosen to keep them both warm had decided he would rather sleep somewhere else. That thought gnawed at him far more than the cold ever could. He lay on the couch, seething in silence, his jaw clenched as he stared at the ceiling. The cushions were comfortable enough, the blanket draped over him expensive and soft, but none of it mattered. It wasn't his bed and it wasn't Noah. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. In Tate's mind, it made no sense. Of everyone in Los Angeles, the one person Tate wanted beside him, the only person whose warmth ever seemed to matter, was also the only person who didn't seem to want to be there. That contradiction infuriated him. He couldn't understand why Noah would willingly choose distance when Tate had so clearly chosen him. The empty space beneath the blankets felt almost insulting, as though Noah's absence itself were rejecting him. Tate pulled the blanket tighter around his shoulders, but it only reminded him that fabric held no warmth of its own. It only trapped the warmth of the person who should have been lying beside him. And tonight there was no one there, only cooling sheets, restless thoughts, and a fury that was growing stronger with every passing minute. His hand paused on the front door handle for a second, grip tightening, not hesitation, not doubt, just focus. "You waited until I trusted you," he said quietly, voice hardening. "That's fine, I'll just stop giving you that advantage." He stepped outside into the cold morning, boots crunching on the driveway, and froze. The thought hit him with sudden, bitter clarity. Noah was like his little truck, fast, stubborn, impossible to hold, always slipping just out of reach, leaving him stranded, abandoned, scrambling to catch up. "No," Tate muttered under his breath. It stung more than the empty driveway ever could. He had held him, fought for him, and still, Noah had moved on, not by accident but by design. But the frustration sharpened him rather than slowing him. Distance, time, variables stacking against him, it didn't matter. "You're still not getting far from me, Noe," he said under his breath, voice low and certain, eyes lifting to the horizon. This time Tate meant it like a promise. Cross town in Tate's childhood mansion, Talia hugged Noah tightly in the living room, her arms warm and steady, and for a moment the chaos of the past night felt distant. The softness of her embrace was a contrast to the tension that had been coiled in me for hours, a small anchor in the storm I hadn't realized I'd needed. Terrence leaned casually against the counter, a quiet smile tugging at his lips as he watched us, the kind of smile that said everything was fine, even when it clearly wasn't. His presence was grounding in its own way, steady and calm, a reminder that not everyone was caught up in the turbulence of the night. We sat down to eat, waffles piled high with syrup glistening, eggs golden and soft, and ham sizzling invitingly on the side. Conversation drifted between us, light and teasing, laughter spilling into the corners of the room, filling it with a sense of normalcy that felt almost alien after the chaos of the last hours. The clink of utensils and the warmth of the food grounded me, made me feel like I could breathe again without constantly glancing over my shoulder. Then the front door opened. The sound cut through the comfort like a blade. Waffles paused mid-bite, eyes flicked toward the sound. Even the laughter seemed to die in the air. The moment stretched taut, every small noise, the creak of the floor, the rustle of the curtains amplified in the sudden tension. Someone or something had just crossed the threshold, and the warmth and security of the morning shifted in an instant. Heartbeats quickened, and the simple act of sitting in the living room no longer felt quite so safe. Talia tightened her hold instinctively, as if sensing the change before I did. Terrence straightened, that easy smile replaced by a subtle narrowing of eyes, alert and measuring. The aroma of breakfast, the syrup, the eggs, the ham seemed to fade into the background, replaced by anticipation, a quiet electric hum of unease. Every nerve in my body prickled. I could feel the weight of the unknown presence filling the room, pressing down, demanding attention. The door hadn't just opened, it had shifted everything, and even in the comfort of company and food, a new tension had settled over us, impossible to ignore. I gulped, my throat suddenly dry, unsure who or why the front door had opened. My pulse spiked, thundering in my ears, and the answer slammed into me before I could even think. "Tate." Talia's son appeared behind Terrence's chair like a shadow, materializing from the corners of the room, tall, tense, and vibrating with purpose. Every movement he made was precise, deliberate, as if the very air around him bent toward him. His anxious eyes swept the room in a slow, deliberate arc, scanning every face, every surface, until finally they landed on me. The moment his hazel gaze locked with mine, the air seemed to tighten, compress, thick with anticipation. My stomach twisted, part fear, part something else I couldn't name. His pale features, previously drawn and almost ghost-like, shifted the instant he saw me. The desperate edge in his expression softened, but only slightly before his cheeks flushed pink, betraying the heat of his blood and his pulse racing beneath taut skin. He was alive with movement even in stillness, every muscle coiled and ready, and the subtle tremor in his hands betrayed him further. My breath caught in my throat. Tate's chest rose and fell in rapid, uneven rhythm, the faint sheen on his forehead, the taut lines in his jaw and neck, they all told the same story. He had run, I realized, and not just across the block. Miles, sweat and adrenaline burned together, pushing him forward until he reached me. Each second stretched, long and heavy, the room shrinking around us. I wanted to speak, I wanted to run, I wanted to pretend I didn't feel the pull he had over me. But the heat of recognition, the sharp crackle of tension in the space between us left my body frozen. His eyes didn't waver, hazel glowing almost unnaturally bright, drawing me in as I had nowhere to hide. Every instinct screamed at me, stay calm, stay steady, don't move. And yet I couldn't ignore it. The air between us was charged, taut, every second stretching longer as if the room itself was holding its breath. Tate's gaze carried something I couldn't name, desperation, yes, but also something darker, something impatient, insistent, claiming. He wasn't just here, he was hunting, and I was the quarry he'd tracked across miles and hours. I felt my own pulse quicken even more, adrenaline mixing with the fear and anticipation twisting in my chest. He had found me, not just physically. He had found me emotionally, mentally, and every nerve in my body screamed at me that I wasn't safe from him, not really. The tension coiled tight, a living thing between us ready to snap, and in that moment I realized that nothing I had done, no distance I'd created, could keep me from him. And then he stepped slightly closer, just a fraction, but it was enough. Enough to collapse the space between us, enough to make my heart hammer, enough to remind me that the chase wasn't over, it was only the beginning. "Good morning," Tate yawned, stretching lazily, his movements deliberate and unhurried. The sun caught the sharp planes of his face, highlighting the subtle mischief in his hazel eyes. Talia's lips curved into a smile, one part amusement, one part indulgence. "Pull up a chair, darling, I wasn't aware you were coming for breakfast, but I'm glad you came," she said softly, her voice smooth as silk. She watched him with that faint glimmer in her eyes, like she was both entertained and slightly impressed. He knows exactly what he's doing, she thought, and the poor boy doesn't stand a chance. Terrence didn't lift his eyes from the newspaper, though a tiny crease appeared between his brows. "Oh, here we go again," he muttered silently. "The drama, the theatrics, can't Tate just act like a normal adult human for 5 minutes?" Noah said nothing. He couldn't. His fork hovered over my eggs, useless and heavy in his hand. His pulse spiked and a rush of heat made his vision swim. He just wants to disappear, Noah thought desperately, his stomach twisting. Just vanish, make him go away, make this stop. Tate didn't rush, he never did. He walked the long way around the table, slow, deliberate, every step a silent challenge. His presence loomed closer, heat radiating off him in waves that made it impossible to think. Noah's throat went dry, his tongue sticking to the roof of his mouth. Tate leaned down over my head, brushing a casual hand against the back of my chair. My heart thudded like a drum, each beat echoing painfully in my ears.